New Mexico is famous for its vast deserts, rugged landscapes, and silent, endless horizons. By day, the desert is beautiful, serene, and full of warm sunlight reflecting off the sand and rock formations. By night, however, the desert becomes a place of shadows, whispers, and forgotten spirits. Footsteps echo on empty sands. Winds carry distant cries across canyons and mesas. Some travelers report seeing ghostly figures walking in the dunes, glowing eyes staring from dark crevices, and strange lights that appear and vanish without explanation. The desert holds secrets that no living soul should uncover, and its abandoned places are haunted by the echoes of the past. Hello dear listener. Welcome to another night of mystery, fear, and the unknown. I hope you are somewhere safe and comfortable, maybe tucked in with headphones, as tonight we journey through the haunted deserts of New Mexico. Where abandoned towns, forgotten mines, and empty canyons hold restless spirits. Some desert towns are empty, yet lights flicker inside the ruins. Some canyons echo with voices that vanish as you listen closer. Some abandoned highways carry phantom cars, and travelers swear they feel invisible hands brushing their shoulders. And some say that if you wander alone at night, you might see shadows moving against the desert horizon. Or find yourself drawn to an ancient ruin where no one should be. Before we venture into these haunted deserts, tell me in the comments. If you had to spend a night alone in one of these desert places, would you camp near an abandoned town? Or venture into the silent dunes where shadows roam freely? Take a deep breath. The desert awaits. White Sands National Monument stretches endlessly under the night sky, its dunes glowing softly in the moonlight. The landscape is serene and silent, a vast expanse of shifting white sand under a canopy of stars. Yet, for those who venture into the desert at night, an unease settles in the air, as if the sands themselves hold secrets that the day cannot reveal. Hikers and night travelers report seeing a lone figure walking across the dunes. The figure is distant at first, a shadow moving steadily across the glowing sands. It seems human in form, yet there is something subtly unnatural in its gait, a weightless stride that does not disturb the earth beneath. Approaching the figure only causes it to vanish, leaving behind no footprints, no trace of passage, as if the desert itself swallowed its presence. The air around the phantom is reported to grow unnaturally cold. Even on nights when the desert holds the warmth of the day. Hikers speak of sudden drafts brushing across their faces, chilling them with an intensity that seems impossible in the otherwise mild night air. The cold is felt more than seen, a presence that brushes against the living and reminds them that they are not alone in the sands. Some visitors describe the figure as walking with purpose, moving toward an unseen destination. It does not speak, and it does not acknowledge those who watch. Its presence is fleeting yet striking, leaving an impression of something both lonely and eternal. The phantom traveler appears at different points along the dunes, sometimes near the edges where the sand meets scrub brush, other times on the peaks of silent, rolling hills. Each sighting shares the same eerie qualities, an untraceable path, a sudden disappearance, and the sensation of being watched. The desert itself seems to respond to the phantom's presence. Shadows play differently in these areas, stretching longer and darker, though no tangible source casts them. Travelers often feel as though the landscape has changed behind them, a silent, subtle manipulation that defies the logic of the natural world. Sounds in the desert take on an unusual character at night. The wind seems to whisper differently near the site of the phantom. Small, distant noises echo across the sands as soft footsteps that vanish when pursued. Faint rustling as if someone brushes against dry brush far off. There are no other humans, no animals, yet the desert is alive with these subtle disturbances. Those who have encountered the figure speak of the experience as both calming and unsettling, a strange intersection of beauty and otherworldliness. Some claim to have felt the figure pass near them, a cold touch brushing across their shoulders or arms without leaving any mark. The sensation is distinct, yet it is impossible to locate the origin. The desert is open, flat in many places, and yet the encounter feels intimate, a personal crossing between the living and the unseen. The phantom traveler does not interact but leaves a presence, a lingering weight that is sensed long after the figure disappears. Many have tried to follow the figure, moving carefully over the soft sands to keep the tracks intact. Yet, each attempt is futile. The figure shifts or vanishes entirely, leaving the dunes pristine as though it had never existed. Some visitors feel an inexplicable compulsion to move cautiously, to step softly, and to watch the horizon endlessly, hoping to glimpse the traveler again. The desert becomes a stage where the ordinary rules of space and time seem suspended. The phenomenon is reported throughout the monument. Sightings occur near prominent dunes, along the desert flats, and even in areas close to scrub and desert flora. The figure does not appear in a single location but traverses the monument as if it knows every slope, every shadowed corner. Its presence is consistent, yet unpredictable, appearing without pattern or warning. The white sands, under the glow of the moon, reflect the figure's isolation. Its path is unknowable, its purpose inscrutable, yet it leaves an indelible impression on those who witness it. The cold air, the soft brush of wind, and the vanishing presence combine to create an experience that is haunting and unforgettable. Even experienced hikers report a sense of being followed or observed long after the figure has disappeared. The sensation lingers in the mind, a quiet unease that is difficult to shake. Tracks or footprints are never found, yet the feeling of presence persists. For some, it is a reminder of the desert's vastness. For others, it is proof that some travelers never truly leave, existing in a space between the seen and unseen. White Sands National Monument is a place of extraordinary beauty and tranquility. The soft curves of dunes, the shimmering surface of sand under moonlight, and the silence of the desert, all contribute to its allure. Yet, hidden within this beauty, is the phantom traveler. A figure who walks alone through the night, leaving an encounter that is at once brief and unforgettable. Each sighting is a glimpse into the mysterious, a brush with something outside the ordinary world, reminding visitors that even in the most open spaces, the unseen can move silently among the living. Those who have encountered the figure speak of it with reverence and awe. The phantom traveler of White Sands is a presence of solitude and mystery, a silent witness to the desert night. Its passage through the dunes reminds us that some landscapes hold memories, some presences endure beyond comprehension, and that the desert, though seemingly empty, is never truly vacant. The ghost town of Shakespeare sits in the arid hills like a memory frozen in time. Once a bustling mining town, it now stands abandoned, its wooden buildings sun-bleached and creaking in the wind. Streets that once echoed with the sounds of pickaxes and horse-drawn carts now lie silent, yet locals and visitors claim that the past refuses to rest here. Ghostly footsteps echo along the deserted streets, soft and rhythmic, as if miners are still making their rounds, tending to unseen work that continues long after life has left the town. As the sun sets and shadows stretch across the empty storefronts, faint lantern lights appear in windows where no one resides. The glow flickers like a heartbeat, illuminating the peeling paint and splintered wood, casting strange, shifting shapes onto the cracked sidewalks. Some who have walked through the streets at night report feeling watched, though when they turn the streets are empty. The sense of unseen eyes following their every movement though when they turn the streets are empty. The saloon, once a center of laughter and song, now stands hollow. Doors hang crooked on their hinges, and the smell of dust and old timber pervades the air. Yet visitors report hearing murmurs and low conversations drifting from within. Voices that echo the exuberance of miners long gone. Footsteps ascend the stairs to the balcony, pause, and then vanish, leaving a silence that feels heavier than the absence itself. Along the main street, the old hotel looms like a sentinel. Windows are broken, but lanterns glow inside, swinging gently as if caught in an invisible breeze. Some have seen the silhouettes of figures moving from room to room, pausing at doorways, heads bowed, hands steady at work unseen. Others have felt sudden cold drafts brush past their arms, or heard the faint clang of a metal pan in the kitchen, though no one has been there for decades. The town's cemetery, small and overgrown, holds another kind of presence. Tombstones lean at impossible angles, names fading into the stone. At night, whispers rise among the markers, unintelligible yet distinctly human. Some visitors feel a soft pressure against their shoulders or a warm breath at the back of their neck, fleeting sensations that vanish when acknowledged. It is as if the miners, and the families who followed them, refuse to leave even in death, tied eternally to the town they built and the labor they performed. The old general store presents another haunting. Shelves sag under the weight of nothing. Yet visitors report hearing the rustle of goods. And the clink of coins. Doors swing slowly, as if someone has entered. And a soft, deliberate shuffle moves along the floorboards. When a visitor dares to investigate, they find only emptiness. But the echoes linger. As if the past continues its routines, invisible yet insistent. Even the outskirts of town carry spectral impressions. The remains of mining equipment, rusting and half-buried, appear to move slightly at night. Shadows shift across the hills in unnatural ways. And some have heard the distant ring of a hammer striking rock. The rhythmic sound of labor long finished. The wind carries whispers, faint but persistent. Like voices carried from deep within the mines. Telling stories of toil, fear, and camaraderie that no living ear can fully comprehend. Those brave enough to explore the old boarding houses report hearing footsteps pacing above them, boards creaking under weight that does not exist. Doors slam softly, sometimes in sequence, as though someone is moving methodically from room to room. Lights flicker from within, revealing only shadows on the walls. Figures have been glimpsed at windows, staring out toward the hills, then vanishing when directly observed. The effect is not frightening in a sharp way, but it is profoundly unnerving, a reminder that time here flows differently, and the inhabitants of the past may still linger just out of reach. Visitors often note a sense of rhythm to the hauntings. Footsteps move along the streets in measured intervals, lanterns swing at predictable moments, and whispers rise and fall like a cadence. It is as though the miners' lives, their routines, their day-to-day existence, persist beyond mortality, enacting their silent work in an endless loop. The town has become a stage for the past, a place where history is not only remembered but physically enacted by those who cannot leave. Even in the dead of night, the ambient sounds of Shakespeare suggest a life that never ended. The faint scrape of boots against wood. The subtle creak of doors opening and closing. The distant clink of Tulsa all seem to echo from a world that overlaps with our own. The town feels alive yet empty. Present yet absent. A place where every creaking board and flickering light carries the weight of memory and labor. Those who leave the town report a lingering unease, a sense that Shakespeare is watching them depart, that its shadows have followed them along the hills and through the valleys. Some carry the faint scent of smoke or dust long settled, reminders of the lives that once filled these streets. Others speak of dreams filled with miners working silently in the night, their presence persistent, unyielding, and quietly insistent that the town's story is far from over. Shakespeare's streets are a testament to the endurance of memory, of human effort and human presence that refuses to vanish entirely. The ghostly lights in the windows, the shadows on the streets, the whispers among the empty buildings, these are not mere tales but lingering echoes of the past. Woven into the very fabric of the town. The spirits here are not malevolent but persistent, guardians of memory. Silently repeating the life that once existed among the hills and mines. The ghost town of Shakespeare, in its stillness and decay, invites visitors to witness the past in motion. It is a place where history is tangible, where labor, life, and memory intersect, leaving traces that are at once haunting and deeply moving. Walking its streets is to walk among shadows of the past, to hear the whispers of miners and townsfolk. And to sense that even in abandonment, the essence of Shakespeare endures. Here, among the deserted buildings and abandoned mines, the spirits of Shakespeare remain present, quietly observing. Softly working, and forever entwined with the land they shaped. Visitors leave carrying fragments of the town with them. A memory of footsteps, whispers, and flickering lanterns. That ensures Shakespeare's story is never fully forgotten. Fort Union, once a strategic military fort, stands now as a silent testament to the soldiers who lived and served there. By day, the ruins tell a story of fortifications and history. But as dusk falls, the site seems to shift, revealing the presence of something beyond the ordinary. Visitors report faint echoes of marching, the soft rhythm of boots on stone, though no one appears in sight. Figures in old military uniforms are said to appear along the perimeter walls and inside the crumbling buildings. The effect is fleeting and ghostly, leaving observers with the sense that the soldiers continue their duties long after their physical lives have ended. Doors within the ruins sometimes swing open or shut by themselves. A breeze seems insufficient to account for the movement, and many visitors pause. And straining to hear any explanation beyond the ordinary. The quiet halls amplify the smallest sounds, so that even whispers, whether imagined or real, seem to carry for long distances. Some hear commands and murmurs, soft and indistinct, as if the voices of the past are replaying the routines of daily life at the fort. And many visitors pause, straining to hear the whispers of the past. Walking through the grounds, visitors often feel watched. Shadows appear at the edges of vision, sometimes forming into partial figures. The forms are never fully tangible, yet their presence is undeniable. The combination of light, shadow, and ruin creates a haunting tableau, where the boundary between the past and present blurs. The main building, now hollowed and roofless in parts, holds a particular energy. Footsteps echo unnaturally along its hallways. And whispers seem to come from the corners of empty rooms. These experiences leave a lasting impression, an intimate connection to the history that permeates the walls. Outside, along the fort's perimeter, figures sometimes appear pacing the ramparts or standing in the distance. They wear uniforms of a bygone era, detailed and precise. And yet their movements are subtle, almost ethereal. Some witnesses have seen small groups marching in formation, only for the soldiers to vanish as the observers approach. The fort, in these moments, seems alive with the echo of duty and discipline. A living memory of those who once defended its walls. Visitors walking the open grounds may encounter more subtle phenomena. A gentle touch along the shoulder, the faint brushing of fabric, or the cold sensation of passing through invisible bodies has been reported. Though there is no malice, the presence is unmistakable, reinforcing the idea that Fort Union retains the energy and memory of its former inhabitants. At night, the ruins take on an even more pronounced atmosphere. Shadows stretch long across the walls and open courtyards. The quiet is broken only by the wind and occasional distant sounds that seem to echo the past. Guests often feel compelled to move cautiously, aware that their own footsteps are mirrored by an unseen rhythm. An unseen parade of soldiers retracing paths they walked centuries ago. The open spaces, including the fort's parade grounds, are said to carry voices and sounds from the past. Soft commands, distant laughter, and murmurs rise and fall with the wind. The experience is subtle yet persistent, creating a sense that the fort is never truly empty, that history continues to replay itself in whispers and shadows. Some visitors report seeing objects moved or shifted within the ruins. A piece of debris may appear rearranged, or a door left slightly ajar as though someone had passed through. These small details, minor though they seem, enhance the overall sensation of presence and awareness, as if Fort Union itself maintains a connection to those who once served there. The fort's environment, from its walls to the surrounding landscape, amplifies these experiences. Stones, arches, and remnants of structures seem to hold energy. And when combined with fading light and the quiet of evening, visitors feel a palpable link to the past. The air grows cooler, and the sense of history becomes tangible, almost corporeal. As though the soldiers themselves continue their duties unseen. Every step through the fort grounds reinforces the impression of lingering spirits. Guests report the sense of being observed, sounds of boots, and whispers that do not belong to the present. There is a rhythm here, a cadence that echoes the discipline and daily life of a military fort. Time feels altered, the living moment intersecting with the past, allowing a glimpse into lives long ended but not forgotten. Allowing a glimpse into lives long ended but not forgotten. By the end of a visit, many leave with a profound sense of connection. Fort Union is more than ruins, it is a space where history and the present converge. The soldier's spirit, expressed in shadow, sound, and subtle movement, continues to walk these grounds. Visitors depart with an understanding that the fort's memory is alive, not in grand spectacles, but in the quiet persistence of echoes, whispers, and unseen steps. That history never truly ends. The Lincoln Historic Site preserves a slice of the Old West, a town that once bustled with lawmen, outlaws, and pioneers seeking fortune and justice. By day, visitors walk along the streets, explore the old courthouse, and imagine life in the late 1800s. The wooden sidewalks creak beneath their feet, the sun casts long shadows across weathered buildings, and the air carries a faint scent of history. Yet as darkness falls, the town takes on a different character, a presence that whispers of the dangers, conflicts, and stories that unfolded centuries ago. Visitors after dusk often report seeing figures in period clothing wandering through the courthouse. Wandering through the courthouse and along the streets. These shapes are faint yet unmistakable, appearing as men dressed in old suits or coats, hats shading their faces. Appearing as men dressed in old suits or coats, hats shading their faces. They move slowly, deliberately, sometimes pausing as if observing their surroundings or carrying out a task from the past. Observers describe a sense of tension in their presence, a feeling that the figures are aware of the living but cannot interact directly. The town feels alive in a way that is both eerie and captivating, a living memory of the Old West replaying itself in fragments. Alongside these visual apparitions, some have heard the sound of gunshots echoing through the empty streets. The reports describe the cracks of rifles or pistols, sharp and startling in the quiet of night. Yet when visitors investigate, there is no one present, no evidence of firearms, and the town remains silent and still. The sound seems to carry across the streets and alleys, resonating off the wooden facades of buildings and the old stone steps of the courthouse. It is as though the echoes of past conflicts are imprinted in the very fabric of the town, replaying for those who walk its streets after dark. One visitor recounted an evening walk along the main street just after sunset. The sky was deepening to twilight, and a faint wind rustled through the empty town. A figure appeared near the courthouse, dressed in dark attire with a hat pulled low. The visitor froze, heart racing, as the man moved across the street, glancing toward the empty storefronts before fading into shadow. Moments later, the sharp crack of a gunshot echoed from an alleyway, startling the observer. Yet no one was visible. The experience left a lasting impression, a chilling reminder of the lawlessness and tension that once defined the town. The architecture and layout of the Lincoln Historic Site contribute to the sense of the supernatural. The courthouse with its echoing interior. And the wide open streets. Shadows cast by lanterns or the fading light create forms that shift and move with subtlety, enhancing the feeling that the past is visible and near. Local lore holds that the figures and sounds are the spirits of outlaws, lawmen, and townspeople who once inhabited Lincoln. Some suggest that gunfights and conflicts left lingering echoes, while others believe that restless spirits continue to walk the streets, bound to the town by unfinished business or memories of turbulent times. Witnesses consistently describe similar experiences of figures moving in period attire, sounds of gunfire, and the eerie sensation of being watched, indicating a continuity of perception that spans generations. Encountering the outlaw's ghost is both thrilling and unnerving. The figures and sounds are not threatening, yet the awareness of their presence heightens every sense. Observers notice details in the buildings, the alignment of streets, and the interplay of shadow and light, as if the town itself is guiding attention to elements of its history. Each creak of a board, each shifting shadow, and each distant sound becomes meaningful, contributing to a profound sense that the past remains intertwined with the present. Even when the figures and gunshots are absent, Lincoln Historic Site retains an atmosphere of memory and presence. Visitors often report a lingering feeling of being observed, a quiet awareness that the town's history continues to exist in layers beyond the physical. The experience emphasizes that history is not merely recorded in artifacts or architecture, but lives on in energy, echoes, and the impressions left on those who walk its streets. As night falls fully over West Texas, the town takes on a hushed, expectant quality. Shadows lengthen along the streets, figures in period clothing may glide silently through the courthouse. And distant gunshots may echo, sharp and fleeting. The Lincoln Historic Site endures as a space where the past is palpable. Where the stories of outlaws, lawmen, and townspeople continue to move through the streets, hallways, and alleys. Visitors who walk the town at night experience more than history. They encounter the lingering presence of lives once lived. A haunting and vivid reminder that the spirit of the Old West endures long after the sun has set. Bonanza Creek stretches into the night, a silent ribbon of earth marked by the remnants of old mining operations. The abandoned mine sits at the heart of the canyon, its wooden structures worn and rotting, cliffs jagged against the darkening sky. By day, it is quiet and desolate, but at night, hikers and travelers report an unsettling presence that seems to awaken with the moon. By day, it is quiet and desolate, but at night, hikers and travelers report an unsettling presence that seems to awaken with the moon. As darkness settles, strange lights appear along the cliffs and above the mine entrances. They are small, flickering, and move with an intelligence that is impossible to trace. Some appear to hover near the mine shafts, while others drift along the edges of the canyon, illuminating jagged rock faces in brief, ghostly glows. Hikers speak of watching the lights dance in impossible patterns, moving against the wind, rising and falling as though alive. The sounds of the mine seem to come alive at night. Faint strikes echo through the canyon as if pickaxes are hitting stone in the dark. The echoes are joined by the scraping of shovels, the creak of wood, and the murmur of footsteps along paths that are no longer maintained. No living miner is present, and yet the sound carries convincingly through the crisp night air. The echoes send shivers down the spine. A repetitive tapping that sends shivers down the spine. Shadowy figures are seen moving along the cliffs and among the mine structures. They are fleeting at first, just glimpses along ridges or through gaps in the wooden scaffolding. Those who have approached them describe silhouettes that are human in shape yet unnervingly dark and intangible. They move with purpose, appearing to search or dig, yet they leave no footprints, no disturbance to the earth. Each figure seems aware of its surroundings, navigating the abandoned mine with an eerie familiarity. The air around Bonanza Creek changes when the lights and sounds appear. A chill settles over the canyon, heavier than the normal mountain air. Hikers report sudden drops in temperature, a biting cold that penetrates through clothing. At times, a heavy stillness envelopes the mine, broken only by the ghostly echoes of tools striking stone. The combination of light, sound, and cold creates an atmosphere that is both mesmerizing and unnerving. Observers often note a sense of being watched. The shadows move deliberately, occasionally glancing toward those who stand still, and yet vanish if pursued. The lights flicker more rapidly when someone tries to follow them, retreating along the cliffs or disappearing behind rock formations. This elusive behavior gives the impression of an intelligent presence. One that is aware of intruders but unconcerned by their presence unless approached too closely. Hikers have described hearing whispers carried on the night wind. The voices are faint, sometimes indistinct, murmuring words that are impossible to understand. They seem to rise from the mine shafts themselves, blending with the echoing sounds of tools and footsteps. They seem to instill a mixture of curiosity and fear, as if the ghosts of miners from a bygone era are calling out, sharing fragments of a world long gone. Some who visit Bonanza Creek at night experience disorientation. Trails that are familiar by day appear to twist and shift under the veil of darkness. The lights and shadows play tricks on the eyes, creating illusions of movement where there is none. Visitors report sudden changes in direction, as if invisible hands are guiding them along the cliffs or into the depths of the mine. Despite these sensations, the landscape remains unchanged, leaving only the perception of something supernatural at work. Encounters with the phantom miners often leave lasting impressions. Hikers speak of the oppressive weight of history. The labor and lives of those who once worked here linger in the air. The lights, sounds, and shadows form a chorus of memory. A reminder that the abandoned mine is more than empty rock and wood. It is a place where the past continues to exist alongside the present, visible and audible to those willing to witness it. The canyon itself seems to resonate with energy. Even in moments of silence, the atmosphere is charged. The still air vibrating faintly with unseen motion. Rocks appear to shift under the gaze of the watchers, and distant echoes carry far across the valley. The lights and shadows of Bonanza Creek do not behave like ordinary reflections or animals. They move with a purpose, a pattern. That suggests a story, a labor that never truly ended. Bonanza Creek at night is a spectacle of the supernatural, a convergence of light, sound, and shadow. The phantom miners, flickering lanterns, and rhythmic taps of invisible tools combine to create an immersive and haunting experience. Visitors leave the canyon changed, carrying memories of fleeting figures on the cliffs, the echo of pickaxes striking stone, and the cold, sharp air of a place where the past refuses to remain buried. Those who return often describe the mine as alive in a way that defies explanation. The lights continue to float, shadows continue to move, and the echoes persist long after the hikers have departed. Bonanza Creek is a reminder that some places hold the memory of those who labored and lived there, and that in the quiet of night, the past can become present in the most extraordinary and unsettling ways. At dawn, the lights fade, the shadows retreat, and the mine becomes silent once more. The canyon appears empty, the cliffs still, and the air warm. Yet, those who have witnessed the ghostly presence know that the phenomena will return with nightfall. Bonanza Creek is not abandoned in spirit, and the memory of the miners continues to walk the cliffs, strike the stone, and illuminate the dark with the haunting glow of lanterns that never burn out. The Cerrillos Hills rise from the desert landscape, rugged and quiet, yet those who venture here after dusk speak of a presence that lingers long after the sun has disappeared. Visitors report seeing a lantern swinging in the hills, its glow moving with a rhythm that suggests a steady hand guiding it, yet no figure can be found. The light cuts through the night fog and the shadows of the hills, a solitary beacon that seems to float, suspended between the earth and the sky. As one follows the glow, the sense of history thickens. Figures in mining gear are sometimes glimpsed in the distance, bending over shafts, lifting tools, or inspecting the rocky terrain. Their silhouettes are detailed enough to see helmets, boots, and belts, yet the moment one steps closer, they vanish, dissolving into the darkness as though the night itself swallows them whole. It is a vision of a time long past, a world of labor and ambition, frozen and endlessly replayed in the folds of the hills. The mining trails, worn by centuries of footsteps, echo faintly under the observer's feet. Each stone and crevice seems to hum with stories of toil and danger, of men who carved their lives into the rock in pursuit of silver and fortune. Some visitors feel a weight in the air, a quiet presence pressing against their shoulders, as if the miners have noticed a new traveler on their trails. The sensation is subtle, not threatening, but undeniably there, a reminder that the hills remember. The lantern appears intermittently along the slopes. Sometimes it sways gently as though caught by a breeze. Other times it swings sharply, as if the figure holding it has moved with urgency. Hikers and explorers describe a mixture of fascination and unease. The light is warm, almost comforting in the cold night. Yet its source is impossible to find. When the observer pauses, the glow sometimes drifts closer, hovering in midair for a few moments, then slowly retreating toward the darker valleys of the hills. Alongside the lantern, the distant silhouettes perform their tasks silently. A miner may appear to pry a rock free or inspect a rail, movements deliberate and unhurried. The detail of their forms is remarkable, the shine of a helmet, the glint of a pickaxe, but when one approaches, only the hills remain. No sound follows, no echo of footsteps or voice, only the soft rustle of the night wind through sparse vegetation. The effect is unnerving, a dance of presence and absence that feels entirely natural within this haunting landscape. The old mining shafts and tunnels add another layer of mystery. Mouths of tunnels gape like silent mouths, shadows pooling at their entrances. Visitors speak of sudden drops in temperature, a chill that creeps up their arms and bites at their skin, as if the past reaches outward from the earth itself. From within these shafts, the faint glimmer of light sometimes appears, reflecting off walls slick with age, guiding explorers briefly before retreating deeper into the black. Those who enter feel eyes upon them, though no one is there. As the night deepens, the hills themselves seem to breathe with memory. Each gust of wind carries whispers of conversations that might have happened decades ago. The creak of old wooden supports, the clink of metal on rock. Some claim to hear laughter, not of joy but of relief and camaraderie, the shared human response to hardship and isolation. The lantern continues its journey through the hills, leading observers through a landscape that exists in two times at once, present and remembered, seen and unseen. Many visitors remark on the rhythm of the phenomena. The lantern appears at regular intervals, the Minersa figures move predictably along old trails. And the sounds of labor and human effort are punctuated in ways that suggest a routine, preserved by memory. It is as if the Cerrillos Hills have retained a sense of order, a quiet rehearsal of a life that refuses to be erased. To witness it is to walk alongside history, to feel the pulse of men long gone yet still present in the landscape. To feel the pulse of men long gone yet still present in the landscape. To witness it is to walk alongside history, to feel the pulse of men long gone yet still present in the landscape. Even in the darkest corners of the hills, the presence remains gentle but insistent. Cold spots appear near rock outcrops or tunnels. Footsteps echo in the still air. And lanterns glow with a persistence that defies explanation. Some hikers describe being followed by shadows that vanish when looked at directly. Glimpses of miners pausing to observe the living. Their silent vigil extending across the decades. The hills are alive with memory, not in motion but in repetition. A timeless performance that asks only to be witnessed. By dawn, the lantern and figures disappear. The hills return to their quiet state. The night fog dissipates. And the rocky terrain basks in the soft light of morning. Yet those who witnessed the phenomena carry the imprint with them. The swing of the lantern, the silhouettes of miners at work. The feeling of being observed in a place where time folds upon itself. A haunting that is subtle but undeniable, a presence that exists just at the edge of perception. The Menara's lantern is more than a story of ghosts or phantoms. It is a connection to the human effort that shaped the land. A living memory cast in shadows and light. Each glow of the lantern, each fleeting figure in the distance, invites reflection on the courage, labor, and persistence of those who came before. The hills themselves seem to protect this memory, ensuring that the story of the miners and their endless work endures. Visitors depart with a sense of awe and quiet contemplation. The hills are silent now, yet the memory of lanterns swinging along ridges, figures moving among the rocks, and the pulse of human presence remains. The Cerrillos Hills do not merely hold history, they perform it, offering a vision that is at once eerie, beautiful, and profoundly human. Those who witness it become part of the narrative, observers of a time and labor that continues, imperceptibly but undeniably, in the hills themselves. The Menara's lantern remains suspended in the hills, a guide and guardian of memory, silently illuminating the past for those willing to walk its trails. The Tularosa Basin stretches endlessly under the night sky, a desert of shifting sands and silent expanses. By day, it is harsh, sun-scorched, and unforgiving, but as the moon rises, the landscape transforms. Shadows stretch across the dunes, and a strange sense of time and space seems to settle over the basin. Those who venture into the desert at night report experiences that defy explanation, encounters that hint at a presence from another era. Travelers have told of horseback riders appearing from the dunes. The riders move with quiet precision as if gliding over the sand rather than disturbing it. Their figures are often indistinct shadows with the shape of men and women astride horses. Their features hidden beneath the dark contours of hats and flowing coats. Yet despite their faintness they leave a tangible impression. A sense of weight and reality that contrasts with the emptiness of the desert around them. The most striking aspect of these sightings is their elusiveness. When approached, the riders vanish as if swallowed by the night itself. Hoofbeats echo across the dunes long after the figures have disappeared, leaving travelers with a lingering sense of movement where nothing visible remains. The sound is clear and distinct, a rhythm that suggests life and purpose, yet no evidence of horse or rider remains. It is a haunting paradox, a presence made known only through its trace, an echo of a past that continues to walk these sands. Some accounts describe the riders appearing suddenly, emerging from behind a dune with the abruptness of a mirage. Others speak of them gliding along the horizon, parallel to the traveller's path, never drawing nearer or farther, always in silent procession. The moonlight catches glints off the edges of saddles, the shimmer of fabric, and the occasional flash of eyes, lending a surreal and ethereal quality to the encounter. Travelers often pause, mesmerized by the vision, sensing that they are witnessing a scene untouched by time. There is a sense of history woven into these apparitions. Locals whisper that the riders may be the spirits of cowboys, soldiers, or travelers lost to the desert, continuing journeys that ended long ago. The desert itself seems to accommodate them, the dunes forming natural corridors for their silent passage. Wind carries the sound of hoofbeats and occasionally the faint clink of harnesses, though the source remains invisible. Encounters with these riders often leave travelers unsettled, not by fear, but by the sheer strangeness of the experience. The desert is silent, the air still. And yet the presence of these figures is undeniable. Some have reported feeling a subtle pressure, as though the Redursha gaze passes over them. Or a faint warmth brushing against their shoulders as if the wind itself carries the echo of life. The sensation is fleeting, but it leaves a deep impression, an awareness of a reality just beyond perception. Witnesses also describe moments when the riders vanish completely, yet their passage lingers. Tracks appear briefly in the sand, only to vanish moments later, as if the desert itself refuses to acknowledge the presence of the figures. In other instances, the echo of hoofbeats continues even after the riders have disappeared, bouncing across the dunes, a ghostly rhythm marking time in a place where time seems to stretch infinitely. The Tularosa Bassina's vastness intensifies these experiences. The isolation of the desert allows for uninterrupted observation. Sounds carry and distort in the cool night air, giving movement to otherwise still sands. Travelers describe a sensation of being part of a tableau, of witnessing something both ancient and ephemeral. A bridge between the world of the living and the echoes of those who walked before. Night after night, stories repeat. Travelers who traverse the dunes speak of riders appearing at the same locations. Speaking of riders appearing at the same locations, following similar paths. Always maintaining that elusive distance, always vanishing when approached. The desert keeps its secrets well, offering glimpses without explanation. Leaving witnesses with questions and wonder, never certainty. It is as though the phantom riders exist in a layer of reality that overlaps with our own. Visible only to those who wander into the night when the moon governs the sands. The encounters are varied, yet consistent in their mystery. Some see a single rider, solitary against the vast horizon, moving slowly and deliberately. Others witness a small group, a silent procession moving in perfect alignment, horses and riders appearing as one fluid shadow. Regardless of number or arrangement, the sensation is the same, a haunting, poignant presence, silent yet undeniable, leaving traces in the mind long after the desert returns to quiet. Those who experience the phantom riders often describe a mixture of awe and unease. The beauty of the moonlit desert. The mystery of the figures. And the echo of hooves. Combine to create a moment suspended outside ordinary time. Travelers leave with memories that are vivid, inexplicable, and deeply affecting. A reminder that the Tularosa Basin holds secrets that reach beyond the living. Into the realm of shadows and echoes that continue their passage across the sand. The Tularosa Basin remains a place of mystery, where history, legend, and the natural world converge. Where history, legend, and the natural world converge. The phantom riders, appearing silently from the dunes, maintain the presence of a past that cannot be forgotten. They move with purpose, with grace, and with a haunting beauty, reminding all who witness them that the desert is alive with stories, with echoes of those who came before, and with the enduring presence of spirits bound to the sands. As travelers depart the basin, they carry with them the sense of having touched something otherworldly. The sound of hoofbeats may fade. The shadows disappear. And the dunes return to stillness. But the memory lingers. The phantom riders continue their journey, eternal silhouettes against the moon. Forever crossing the sands of Tularosa. Guiding, haunting. And reminding all who wander here that some presences are timeless. Visible only to those willing to witness the night. Fort Stanton, located in the high plains of New Mexico, is a historic site with a long and complex history. By day, the hospital stands as a relic of early medical practice and military life. Its brick walls and stone foundations weathered by decades of sun and wind. Visitors walking the grounds can explore the buildings, noting the austere architecture, the remnants of patient wards, and the quiet solitude that has settled over the site. Yet as night falls, the old hospital takes on a presence that is both unsettling and mesmerizing. A reminder of the lives and experiences held within its walls. Those who venture into Fort Stanton after dark often report encountering spectral figures of patients and staff. The figures are faint, yet human in shape and movement. Observers have described seeing nurses gliding along corridors, patients seated in wheelchairs that remain empty moments later, and doctors moving purposefully through examination rooms. The figures are not threatening, but their presence is undeniable, creating an atmosphere where the past feels alive and observant. Witnesses often describe a sense of being watched, a subtle tension that permeates the air and makes every shadow and sound feel significant. Alongside the apparitions, visitors have heard moans and footsteps echoing through empty hallways. The sounds are startling in their realism, resonating off the high ceilings and polished floors of the hospital. Footsteps move across the corridors, yet when observers investigate, the halls remain empty. The moans are soft but persistent, carrying a tone of pain or longing that adds to the haunting quality of the site. These auditory experiences blend seamlessly with visual phenomena, reinforcing the sense that Fort Stanton retains the energy of those who once occupied the building. Shadows move across rooms, sometimes along walls, sometimes across floors, often disappearing when approached. The interplay of shadow, light, and architecture creates an immersive experience, where ordinary corners become charged with meaning. And the imagination merges with perception. Guests report that these movements, while subtle, are deeply affecting, leaving an impression of life continuing in forms that defy ordinary explanation. One visitor recounted exploring a patient ward late in the evening. The air was cool, and the only sounds were the distant wind and the occasional creak of the floorboards beneath their own feet. As they turned a corner, a shadow passed across the far wall, elongated by the flicker of a lantern. Moments later, soft footsteps echoed down the corridor, moving away from the observer. The hallway remained empty when investigated, yet the sensation of presence lingered. The visitor paused, listening to faint moans that seemed to drift from the next room, and felt a chill that had no immediate source. The architecture of Fort Stanton contributes to these phenomena. High ceilings, long corridors, and large patient rooms create spaces where sounds carry unpredictably. The hardwood floors and wooden staircases amplify creaks and footsteps, while windows and doorways cast shadows that shift with the movement of light. The combination of structure and emptiness creates an environment where visual and auditory experiences can easily be interpreted as the presence of former occupants, amplifying the sense that the hospital is alive with unseen activity. Local lore suggests that the spectral figures are the remnants of patients, nurses, and staff who once lived and worked within Fort Stanton. Some are said to be echoes of suffering, the moans carrying the memory of pain endured in these halls. Others are described as caretakers, quietly moving through the building to maintain routines that no longer exist. Visitors consistently report similar experiences, including footsteps, shadows, and moans, lending weight to the idea that Fort Stanton holds a lingering connection to its past occupants, preserving fragments of their presence in subtle yet undeniable ways. Experiencing Fort Stanton at night is a profoundly affecting encounter. The combination of visual apparitions, auditory phenomena, and physical sensations engages the senses completely, heightening awareness of space and history. Every creak, every whisper, every shadow contributes to a sense of connection with the past. Observers often leave with a lingering impression that the hospital is not simply a building, but a repository of memory, a place where the energy of life, work, and suffering remains etched into the walls and corridors. A sense of connection with the past. This sense of connection is deeply unsettling. It is as if the hospital is a vessel for the collective memories of those who have suffered and died within its walls. A place where the energy of life, work, and suffering remains etched into the walls and corridors. This is the true horror of Fort Stanton. A place where the past and present collide. A place where the memories of the past linger on, A place where the energy of life, work, and suffering remains etched into the walls and corridors. Even when no figures are visible and the sounds are absent, Fort Stanton retains a charged atmosphere. Visitors often describe a persistent feeling of being observed, a quiet sense of life continuing just beyond the limits of perception. The experience emphasizes that history is not only preserved in objects or documents but continues to exist in energy, echoes, and impressions left behind by those who once inhabited the site. As night deepens across the plains of New Mexico, Fort Stanton stands in quiet vigilance. Shadows move across floors, footsteps echo along empty hallways. Soft moans drift from rooms long unoccupied. The spectral figures of patients and staff may glide through the corridors or sit quietly in chairs. Their presence subtle yet undeniable. The spectral figures of patients and staff may glide through the corridors or sit quietly in chairs. Fort Stanton endures as a place where the past is tangible, where history breathes through empty halls, and where the echoes of life, care, and memory continue to inhabit the hospital long after the lights have gone out. Santa Fe Plaza stands as the heart of the city, its adobe buildings and flagstone streets steeped in history. By day, tourists and locals walk through the plaza, visiting shops, cafes, and galleries, enjoying the warm sunlight and the vibrant energy of the market. Yet, even amid the bustle, some visitors report glimpsing a figure watching from the shadows, a presence that vanishes when approached. As night falls, the plaza transforms. The warm glow of street lamps casts long shadows across the cobblestones, and the stillness seems almost tangible. It is in this quiet that the ghostly phenomena begin. Phantom horse-drawn carriages are said to appear along the streets, their wheels clattering lightly against the stone as though carrying passengers from another time. The horses are silent, their forms are clear and distinct, moving with purpose. Across the plaza, those who witness the apparitions describe a surreal experience. The carriages glide past buildings that have stood for centuries. Past arches and fountains, the silhouettes of riders barely visible in the dim light. The air grows colder, and a faint scent of smoke and leather fills the plaza, as though the horses and their riders have brought the past with them. Some claim to hear the whisper of conversations, the soft shuffle of feet, or the subtle jingle of harnesses, though the streets are empty. The figure glimpsed during daylight often appears at night as well, lingering near archways and corners where shadows deepen. Observers report an intense sensation of being watched, a weight in the air that seems to follow them as they move through the plaza. The presence is not threatening, but undeniably present, as if the specter is tethered to the history of the place, observing the modern world from a distance. Architecture and history intertwine with the supernatural here. From colonial ceremonies to bustling trade and celebrations, it is a place where the past feels tangible, and at night, that sense becomes nearly palpable. The ghostly carriages and the shadowed figure seem to embody memories of the plaza's rich history, replaying echoes of a time long gone, yet not entirely forgotten. Visitors who have walked the plaza at night often describe a shift in perception. Streets that appeared familiar by day can feel alien in the darkness, the shadows seeming to move independently, and sounds appearing where none exist. Some have felt a gentle brush of air against their arms, a sensation of proximity without any visible source. Others report that the carriages disappear the instant they try to follow, leaving only the faint impression of their passage on the stones. Local lore suggests that the specters are tied to the earliest days of Santa Fe, the spirits of travelers, merchants, and townspeople who once populated the plaza. The carriages are believed to belong to traders and officials who moved through the streets centuries ago, their duties and journeys now replayed endlessly in spectral form. The shadowy figure may represent a guardian or observer, tied to the plaza's south central square, ensuring the memory of past lives endures. The plaza itself seems to respond to the presence. Lights flicker as if affected by unseen hands, and the wind carries strange murmurs that disappear when one tries to listen more closely. Even the architecture seems heightened in contrast, corners of buildings and alcoves taking on new dimensions in the interplay of shadow and light. The plaza becomes a stage where the past and present meet, where memory manifests as tangible phenomena for those willing to witness it. Some visitors have attempted to photograph the phenomena, only to find images blurred or obscured. The carriages may appear faintly in some shots, but the shadowy figure is almost never captured. Encounters leave lasting impressions, a combination of awe, wonder, and the subtle thrill of the unknown. The Santa Fe Plaza at night is a convergence of history, memory, and mystery. Each street, each archway, and each stone carries echoes of centuries past. The ghostly carriages, the watching figure, and the whispers in the air create a living tableau. A reminder that the life of the plaza extends beyond the present moment. Those who walk its streets in darkness often leave with a sense of having glimpsed something eternal. A connection to a history that refuses to remain silent. By dawn, the carriages vanish, the figure retreats into shadow, and the plaza resumes its daytime rhythm. Tourists and locals return, unaware of the nocturnal theater that unfolded while the city slept. Yet for those who witnessed the phenomena, Santa Fe Plaza is forever altered. Its streets are not merely pathways, but corridors where the past continues to move, watch, and whisper. The ghostly specter and phantom carriages serve as a bridge between eras, reminding all who visit that some places are never truly empty, and that history often lingers in ways that defy explanation. And that some places are never truly empty, and that history often lingers in ways that defy explanation. And that history often lingers in ways that defy explanation. Even as the sun rises and the warmth returns, there is an enduring presence. The memory of the ghostly travelers. And the watchful figure remains with those who walk the plaza at night. It is a place where history is not confined to books or plaques, but lives on in light, shadow, and the subtle, unexplainable movements that make Santa Fe Plaza one of the city's most haunting and unforgettable sights. The Jornada del Muerto stretches across the New Mexican desert, an unforgiving expanse of sand, rock, and sky. Its name, the Journey of the Dead, is no idle warning. Travelers have crossed these plains for centuries, and many accounts tell of a feeling that follows you here, a sense that the land itself watches with patient, unseen eyes. The horizon shimmers in the heat, and shadows seem to move just beyond sight, fleeting forms that vanish the moment you look directly at them. The desert is wide and open, yet it does not feel empty. The wind carries strange whispers that echo across the sand, as if voices from the past are carried on invisible currents. Some travelers report hearing faint footsteps, soft but insistent, following them along dry riverbeds or rocky trails. When they turn, nothing is there, only the vast expanse of desert stretching endlessly toward the mountains. Those who have walked the Jornada del Muerto describe a weight upon their shoulders, a sense of being watched, even in the middle of the day, and then disappearing when approached. Some have seen a cluster of figures standing still, watching silently, only to dissolve into the heat haze like mirages. Night amplifies the deserta's eerie presence. The temperature drops sharply, and the wind carries the scent of sage and dust. Travelers hear soft rustling that seems to come from nowhere, and the stars overhead feel closer, almost too close, as if observing the land along with them. Lanterns or campfires reveal nothing but empty sand, yet when one looks away, shadows appear where none were before. The Jornada del Muerto seems to play with perception, bending light, heat, and sound to keep its watchers unsettled. History clings to this land. The desert has seen the footsteps of travelers for centuries. Spanish explorers, Native Americans, miners, settlers, The whispers and shadows are often described as echoes of those who perished here. Victims of thirst, heat, and isolation. Some claim to hear old conversations carried on the wind. Voices in languages long forgotten, calling warnings or names that resonate with a sadness beyond comprehension. The horizon itself seems alive. Shapes appear along distant ridges, moving slowly and deliberately. They vanish when approached, leaving only footprints in sand that quickly fill with wind. Some travelers speak of pale figures that cross the trail at dusk, their eyes glowing faintly in the fading light, watching, waiting. Others report seeing tents or small encampments along dry washes, empty when investigated, yet warm to the touch as though recently occupied. The Jornada del Muerto is not only haunted by shadowy figures but also by sensation. A traveler often feels a cold presence brush against them, a hand or a chill that cannot be explained. Rocks appear heavier, dunes steeper, and the silence becomes almost a voice in itself. The desert seems to test endurance, mind, and courage. Those who have lingered too long often report a feeling of compulsion to move, a whispering insistence that guides them onward or away from danger. At sunrise, the desert transforms. The shadows shrink, the shapes along the horizon vanish, and the heat begins to rise, creating mirages of distant mountains and water. Yet the impression remains. Travelers speak of the lingering sensation of eyes upon them, of faint footsteps that seem to follow for miles, and of shapes seen just out of the corner of the eye. The Jornada del Muerto is a desert alive with memory, a place where the present and the past converge in forms both subtle and unnerving. Legends tell of spectral travelers, ghostly explorers retracing the routes they died on centuries ago. Some witnesses claim these figures carry lanterns, packs, or tools from another era. Others speak of pale riders on horseback, appearing suddenly on the horizon, stopping to watch before dissolving into heat, shimmer, or shadow. The desert seems to preserve them, capturing fragments of history in a landscape that refuses to forget. The desert also challenges the mind. Travelers often report distorted distances, seeing forms closer than they are, or hearing sounds that seem near but are actually distant. Footsteps may echo in response to your own, or a whisper repeats your movements with delay. The Jornada del Muerto is a place where perception falters, where shadow and light conspire to make the living feel as though they are not alone, and where the past is always just beyond the edge of sight. Many who cross the Jornada del Muerto at night carry a story of being followed, of shadows moving with intent. Some have felt their names called, softly at first, then more clearly, though no voice can be traced. The landscape absorbs everything to the traveler, the stories, the footsteps, and folds them into its memory. Every movement of wind, every shifting shadow, and every distant figure adds to the legend, making the desert a living archive of those who dared to traverse it. The Jornada del Muerto is more than an expanse of sand and rock. The lanterns of unseen travelers swing along ridges. The shapes of shadowy figures move in rhythm with the dunes. And the whispers of the dead ride on the wind, reminding the living that this journey is never truly empty. Those who pass through feel the weight of the desert's memory. A quiet, persistent presence that watches, waits, and follows. By dawn, the desert appears tranquil. The shadows have faded, the horizon is clear, and the wind carries only sand and sage. Yet the memory of the night remains. Travelers speak of figures along the horizon, of lanterns swinging in the hills, of footsteps that were not their own. The Jornada del Muerto is a place of challenge, reflection, and a desert alive with the unseen, where the dead continue their journey and the living are forever reminded of the thin veil between the two. The desert of the dead does not reveal all its secrets at once. It demands respect, attention, and caution. Every glance toward the horizon, every whisper of wind, and every fleeting shadow reminds travelers that they are not alone. The Jornada del Muerto preserves its stories, its watchers, and its echoes. A timeless landscape where the past and the present converge under the sun, the stars, and the unyielding eyes of the desert. The Mesilla Valley, bathed in the glow of the moon, is quiet at night, the streets empty and still. The adobe buildings and narrow alleyways hold centuries of history, whispers of lives lived long ago lingering in the shadows. Travelers who walk these roads after dark speak of a presence, a woman in white, moving silently through the streets, her form pale and ethereal beneath the moonlight. She is said to wander without purpose, yet a feeling of sorrow follows her. Visitors describe hearing soft cries echoing through empty streets. A sound that rises and falls with the wind, carrying an unshakable weight of grief. It is not the cry of anger or malice, but of longing and loss, reverberating through the silent valley, filling the air with a palpable melancholy. Those who encounter her often describe the sensation before they see her. A sudden drop in temperature, a stillness that presses against the chest, and the faint scent of flowers or damp earth. Then, out of the corner of the eye, a glimpse of white fabric, drifting lightly across the cobblestones or through the alleys. When looked at directly, she is gone, leaving behind only the sound of weeping and the echo of her presence. The weeping woman is never threatening, but her presence is undeniable. Travelers report that the cries sometimes call their names, soft and distant, as if pleading for attention or understanding. The sound seems to come from every direction at once, filling the streets with an invisible tide of sorrow. The wind carries it across plazas and through open doorways, seeping into homes and lingering long after the figure has vanished. Some have followed her, compelled by curiosity or empathy, walking through darkened streets and quiet squares. She moves slowly, gliding rather than walking, and always ahead, yet never far. When approached, she disappears as if dissolving into the night itself, leaving only footprints that vanish almost immediately. And a lingering chill that presses against the skin. Locals speak of her as a woman who suffered great loss, her grief so intense that it remained tethered to the earth, unable to rest. Legend suggests she may have been separated from loved ones, or lost someone tragically, and her spirit continues to search, calling out in the emptiness. The cries carry the weight of her pain, a reminder that some emotions transcend death and linger in the world of the living, carried on the wind and the shadows of Mesilla Valley. Visitors often feel a deep empathy, a mix of sorrow and awe. The sound of her weeping is both mournful and beautiful, a haunting melody that lingers in the mind. Some report seeing her pause near doorways, looking toward homes or plazas, as if remembering a life once lived. Others feel an unseen hand brush against their shoulder or hear a soft sigh that accompanies her movements. The atmosphere in the valley at night amplifies the legend. Street lamps cast long shadows. Adobe walls absorb sound. The cool desert air carries every whisper and sigh. In this environment, the weeping woman's presence becomes almost tangible. A shadow among shadows, a figure of sorrow that exists just beyond the reach of comprehension. Some witnesses describe her appearing in groups of streets or plazas, as if she walks through memories rather than physical space. Her cries sometimes become louder, filling the air with a wailing that rises like a chorus from the past, echoing against the stone and adobe, only to diminish into silence as the observer approaches. The effect is disorienting, blending reality with something otherworldly, leaving travelers unsure of what is seen and what is imagined. Despite the haunting nature of her presence, many who encounter her describe a sense of respect, even reverence. The sorrow she carries feels genuine, untainted by malice, a remnant of human emotion preserved beyond death. Those who pause and observe often leave with a lingering impression, a memory of grief rendered visible, a reminder of the depth of loss that some spirits carry with them. The weeping woman of Mesilla Valley continues her nocturnal journey night after night, wandering the streets in search of something lost. Her cries, carried on the desert wind, fill empty plazas, alleyways, and quiet roads, leaving those who hear them with a sense of awe and mystery. Her presence is a bridge between past and present, a haunting testament to the endurance of memory and emotion. Travelers depart with a lingering awareness, the echo of her sorrow following them long after they leave the valley. Some hear her cries in dreams, or feel her presence in quiet moments. The weeping woman remains tied to the streets, her grief eternal, a spectral figure moving through the night. Calling, searching, and reminding all who walk the Mesilla Valley after dark that some spirits cannot rest, and some sorrow never fades. The Mesilla Valley holds her story in its shadows and alleys, in the silence of its streets, and in the cool night air. Those who wander after dark may glimpse her fleeting form, hear her mournful cries, or feel the chill that heralds her passing. In all cases, the weeping woman leaves an indelible impression, a haunting presence that continues to shape the valley and the imaginations of those who traverse it, a ghostly reminder that the past lingers, quietly watching, weeping, and waiting. Otero Canyon stretches across the rugged landscape of New Mexico, its deep cliffs and narrow passes carved by centuries of wind and water. By day, the canyon is a place of breathtaking beauty, where sunlight illuminates red rock formations, and the shadows of cliffs create dramatic contrasts across the sandy floor. Hikers and explorers often traverse the trails, drawn to the solitude, the sweeping views, and the quiet majesty of the canyon. Yet as daylight fades, the canyon transforms, taking on an atmosphere that is charged, tense, and imbued with an unseen presence. Visitors who walk Otero Canyon after dusk often report encounters with figures among the cliffs. These shapes are faint yet unmistakably human in form, appearing along ridges or between boulders. Some witnesses describe the figures as moving with purpose, either guiding travelers along narrow paths or luring them deeper into the canyon. Their presence is fleeting, visible for only moments, yet it is enough to create a profound sense of awareness and apprehension. The figures seem connected to the canyon itself, part of its landscape and its hidden energy, appearing and vanishing as mysteriously as the shifting shadows. Along with visual phenomena, hikers frequently report tactile and auditory experiences. Cold hands brushing shoulders, the feeling of a presence close behind, or faint whispers calling a name have all been recounted. The whispers are soft and elusive, carrying across the canyon with a strange clarity. They seem personal, directed at the listener, and their effect is immediate. A chill running down the spine and a heightened sense of caution with every step. Footsteps echo along narrow trails where no one else is present, amplifying the sense that the canyon is alive with unseen inhabitants. One hiker recalled traversing a narrow ledge just as the sun dipped behind the cliffs, painting the canyon walls in deep reds and purples. Out of the corner of the eye, a figure appeared along the path ahead, pausing as if waiting. The hiker hesitated, heart pounding, and felt a sudden chill along the neck, as though an invisible hand had touched them. The figure vanished before it could be fully seen, leaving only the echo of footsteps and a faint whisper of a name that seemed to hang in the evening air. The encounter left a lasting impression, a reminder that Otero Canyon holds layers of history and memory that continue to move among its cliffs. The physical landscape of the canyon enhances these experiences. High walls and narrow passages create natural acoustics where whispers and footsteps carry far. While shadows stretch and shift as the sun fades or moonlight casts its glow. The uneven terrain and hidden alcoves allow glimpses of movement to be seen but not approached, giving the impression of figures that are present yet untouchable. Fog or desert mist can gather in pockets, further obscuring vision and creating illusions that make ordinary shapes appear human. These natural elements blend seamlessly with the reports of spectral activity, creating an environment that is both immersive and haunting. Who perished in the canyon, their presence lingering as a warning or a guide to the living. For those who are willing to see and hear. Regardless of explanation, the experiences of visitors are remarkably consistent, indicating a persistent presence that spans generations. Regardless of explanation, the experiences of visitors are remarkably consistent, indicating a persistent presence that spans generations. Regardless of explanation, the experiences of visitors are remarkably consistent, indicating a persistent presence that spans generations. Encounters with the lost hiker are simultaneously unsettling and mesmerizing. The figures, whispers, and cold touches are never overtly threatening, yet the awareness of them heightens every sense. Observers become acutely conscious of the landscape, noting the texture of rocks, the alignment of trails, and the subtle shifts of light and shadow. Each step feels deliberate, each sound amplified, and each movement of wind or shifting sand takes on significance. The canyon becomes a space where perception and history converge, and the presence of the unseen imbues every moment with tension and curiosity. Even in moments of silence, Otero Canyon retains a charged atmosphere. Visitors often report a lingering feeling of being observed, a quiet awareness of presence, and a heightened sense of space. The canyon holds memory and energy, and the experience of traversing its trails is never entirely ordinary. Every whisper, shadow, and brush of cold air reinforces the impression that the canyon is alive with stories, echoes, and lingering spirits. As night falls fully over Otero Canyon, the cliffs take on a somber and mysterious character. Figures may appear along ledges, shadows may glide across trails, and whispers may call a traveler's name, soft and elusive. Cold touches may graze shoulders, and footsteps may echo from paths that no one walks. The canyon endures as a space where the living encounter the past in tangible ways. Where the energy of lost hikers persists among the rocks and sand. And where those who traverse its trails are reminded that some presences are eternal. Watching, guiding, and sometimes luring, long after darkness has settled. Old Route 66 stretches across the American heartland, a ribbon of asphalt winding through small towns, empty fields, and forgotten landscapes. By day, it is a road steeped in nostalgia, lined with vintage motels, rusting signs, and abandoned gas stations that whisper of a bygone era. By night, however, this historic highway reveals a different face, a realm where history and legend converge in ways that defy explanation. Travelers along the old sections of Route 66 have reported unusual phenomena that hint at a lingering presence. Ghostly travelers are said to appear along stretches of the highway after sunset. Drivers sometimes glimpse figures standing on the shoulder, dressed in clothing reminiscent of another century. Hats cast low shadows across obscured faces, and coats flap gently in winds that feel colder than the surrounding night air. These figures often vanish the instant a vehicle draws near, leaving the empty road bathed only in the soft glow of headlights. Some motorists have reported subtle, almost imperceptible interactions with the unseen. Cars feel nudged, shifted slightly as if guided by a hand that cannot be seen. Headlights flicker and tail lights dim without cause, and radios crackle with faint whispers that fade as quickly as they appear. The sensation is unsettling, an awareness that something is present, just beyond perception. It is not always threatening, but it carries an undeniable weight, a reminder that the road is not entirely empty. The road stretches out before them, a seemingly endless path into the heart of madness. The phantom highwayman is said to be a solitary figure, moving along the stretches of asphalt in search of travelers to encounter. Sightings are often reported on remote sections of the road, where towns have long been abandoned and neon signs flicker weakly, their light struggling against the darkness. Witnesses describe the figure as tall, thin, and moving with unnatural grace, steps silent despite the rhythm of the surrounding night. Sometimes the highwayman appears near old bridges or overpasses, the arches framing his shadow as though he has been waiting there for decades. Witnesses describe the figure as tall, thin, and moving with unnatural grace, steps silent despite the rhythm of the surrounding night. Locals and historians suggest that the spectral figures may be echoes of Route 66A's storied past. The road was once a lifeline for travelers, migrants, and merchants, bustling with life during its heyday. Accidents, robberies, and disappearances were part of its history. And the phantom travelers may be remnants of those who never completed their journeys. In particular, the image of the highwayman evokes memories of early 20th century bandits. Shadows of lawless figures who roamed the open road under the cover of darkness. Encounters vary widely. Some report a fleeting glimpse of the figure in their rearview mirror, only to find the road behind them empty when they look again. Others describe hearing the faint sound of footsteps running parallel to their car, the soft scuff of shoes against asphalt that disappears when the windows are rolled down. A few drivers have even spoken of feeling a cold presence brushing against their arms, a shiver that runs deeper than the night air. The highway itself seems to participate in the spectral display. Stretching into the distance, the road can appear longer than it should, curves and bends warping in the eye of the beholder. Shadows deepen unnaturally, and patches of fog gather even on clear nights, swirling along the pavement as though marking a path for the ghostly traveler. Headlights illuminate the road in sharp bands, but just beyond the reach of light, the figure moves, tethered to a history that cannot rest. Despite the unsettling experiences, the phantom highwayman does not seem malevolent. Encounters leave drivers with a sense of awe and curiosity, a feeling of having glimpsed a living fragment of the past. Some motorists have slowed to observe, their engines humming softly as they watch for any sign, only to find the apparition dissolved into air, leaving a silence that is both heavy and alive. Those who have experienced the phenomenon often speak of it with reverence, a recognition that Route 66 is a living history, its stories not confined to books, but present and watching in the night. The legend of the phantom highwayman is strengthened by reports of lights appearing along the road where no vehicles should be. Flickering lanterns or pinpoints of illumination hover over stretches of asphalt, moving in ways that suggest intent. Witnesses describe the lights keeping pace with their cars or vanishing when approached, as though the presence of the living interferes with the realm of the spectral. Radio static occasionally accompanies the lights, faint murmurs and hisses that resemble voices but elude comprehension. Route 66 has always been a road of transitions, connecting past and present, movement and stasis. The phantom travelers embody this duality, existing between memory and reality. They are remnants of a road alive with motion, commerce, and danger, and yet now walking a quiet highway, observed only by those who travel after dark. They serve as a bridge between the living and the lost, a reminder that history can linger in ways more tangible than written record. For those who travel old Route 66 at night, awareness heightens. The silence is dense, every sound amplified, every shadow suspect. Eyes scan for movement along deserted shoulders and overpasses. And the mind struggles to reconcile what is seen with what should be possible. In these moments, the road transforms. The asphalt is not merely a surface for vehicles, but a conduit for memory. And the phantom highwayman emerges as its spectral guide, walking the path of forgotten travelers and long-vanished stories. By dawn, the figures recede, disappearing with the light of the sun. The nudges of unseen hands cease, the flickering lights dim, and the road returns to its ordinary state. Yet those who have witnessed the phantom traveler carry the experience with them, a lingering sense of having brushed against history incarnate. Old Route 66 is no longer just a highway. It is a stage where past and present converge, where shadows of long-departed travelers continue to move, forever wandering the asphalt under the cover of night. The legend endures because the highway itself is timeless. Every curve, every bend, and every abandoned town along Old Route 66 carries the weight of the lives that once traversed it. The phantom highwayman, whether a solitary spirit or a manifestation of collective memory, ensures that the road's past is not forgotten. Those who travel after dark may feel a chill, glimpse a shadow, or see a flickering light, and know that even on the empty highway, they are not truly alone. The Mescalero Apache Reservation stretches across vast desert plains, where the wind moves the sagebrush in long, whispering waves. By day, the land seems open and quiet, the mountains etched sharply against the sky. But by night, visitors tell a different story. The desert transforms into a place where shadows linger and glowing eyes appear just beyond the edge of vision. Those who wander here speak of an unseen presence, watching, moving silently among the sage and the rocks. Travelers report seeing figures that do not belong to the living. At first, they appear distant, outlines against the horizon, pale and shadowy. Then the glow of eyes emerges, reflecting faintly in the moonlight, unblinking and intent. The figures do not make sound, but their movement is deliberate, weaving between the desert plants, vanishing whenever one dares to approach. It is as if the spirits themselves guard the land, observing all who cross their paths. The desert at night has a strange quality, a stillness that feels like anticipation. Every rustle of sage, every shift of wind, seems amplified. Visitors tell of feeling eyes on them from all directions, of shadows that do not belong to any natural form. The Mescalero people speak of the spirit watchers, guardians of the land who have walked it for centuries, preserving memory and history in ways the living can scarcely comprehend. These figures are not malevolent, though their presence is unsettling. They are silent observers, moving with patience and purpose. Those who have followed them for even a short distance speak of being guided subtly. The watchers never touching, never speaking, yet influencing the path forward. Some travelers have reported glimpsing faint outlines that resemble human shapes. Cloaked in the darkness, gliding over dunes and rocky ridges. The desert is alive with them. And the land itself seems to pulse with their presence. Many have felt the weight of the unseen while crossing the reservation at night. Footsteps echo where no one walks, and a sudden chill passes across the desert floor. Some describe hearing whispers in the wind, too faint to understand, as though the spirits communicate in a language older than words. The glow of eyes seems to follow without pause, keeping watchers at a careful distance, always observing, always present. History permeates this land. The Mescalero Apache have inhabited these deserts for generations. And stories tell of spirits who linger to preserve knowledge and memory. Visitors often feel the weight of that history, as if the very ground remembers each life, each struggle, and each triumph. The spirit watchers are part of this memory, silent yet vigilant, ensuring that the desert does not forget those who came before. Those who attempt to approach the glowing figures find them impossible to touch. As one steps closer, the shadows shift and vanish, leaving only empty sagebrush. And the soft rustle of leaves in the wind. Some have reported following them for miles, only to find themselves back at the starting point. The figures gone, as if the desert itself folded space to protect them. Others have felt the sensation of being guided safely through treacherous terrain. The watchers unseen yet present in every careful step. The desert nights are long and full of subtle movement. Even when no figure is visible, travelers report the feeling of eyes tracking them from afar. Rocks and hills cast unfamiliar shadows, and small animals seem to flee from unseen shapes. The spirit watchers move quietly, leaving no trace but an impression on the mind, a sense of connection to something vast and timeless. Many visitors describe the eyes as luminescent, not bright but penetrating, seeming to see not only the body but the intent of the observer. When approached, they vanish, melting into darkness as if the night itself consumes them. The desert remains, the sage sways, and the wind carries a sound like distant voices, echoing across mesas and ridges. The watchers remain hidden yet present, guardians of both land and memory. Those who spend the night under the desert sky often feel a rhythm to the unseen presence, a pulse in sync with the wind and stars. Sometimes a faint figure appears near the edge of a ridge. And for a moment, the observer and the watcher share the same space. Then, as quickly as it appeared, it vanishes, leaving only the quiet desert and a sense of being observed long after. The Mescalero Apache Reservation is a land of story and spirit, where the line between the living and the unseen is thin. The Spirit Watchers are a reminder of that boundary, a presence that persists across generations. Visitors leave with stories of glowing eyes in the sage, silent figures moving through the desert, and a profound sense that this land has its own guardians. By dawn, the desert appears tranquil once more. Shadows retreat into crevices. The glowing eyes are gone. The wind carries only the whisper of moving sage. Yet the memory remains with those who witnessed it. The unblinking gaze, the silent movement, the feeling of being watched. And the feeling of being guided by something beyond understanding. The Spirit Watchers are always there, waiting among the sage and rock. An eternal presence in a land where the past, the present and the unseen converge. The desert does not reveal its secrets lightly. Travelers learn respect and caution in equal measure. Every faint rustle, every glimmer of light, every shifting shadow is part of a story older than memory. The Spirit Watchers move with patience and intent, ensuring that the land retains its stories. And that those who pass through carry with them a memory of a place alive with the unseen. The Mescalero Apache Reservation is more than a desert. It is a living canvas of history and mystery. The Spirit Watchers inhabit it in silence, moving among the sage, the hills, and the rocks. Those who encounter them leave with a profound awareness that some parts of the world are not meant to be conquered or fully understood, only witnessed, respected, and remembered. The desert at night holds its secrets close. Glowing eyes vanish when approached. Shadowy forms slip into sage and darkness. And the wind carries whispers of a presence older than time. Yet for those who look and listen, the Spirit Watchers are there. Guarding the land, and reminding all who enter that the desert remembers. The Socorro Desert stretches endlessly beneath a sky that shifts from blazing sunlight to inky night. Its dunes and rocky trails hold the silence of centuries, yet travelers who venture after dark speak of a presence, a lone figure moving through the sand, dressed in the attire of an old cowboy. The drifter appears suddenly, often at the edge of vision. A hat tilted low, a long coat dusted with desert sand. Boots that stir up ghostly footprints that vanish almost as soon as they are made. A solitary figure against the vast emptiness, yet his presence is felt more than it is seen. Visitors often hear the faint clinking of spurs, a sound that carries over dunes and washes across rocky trails. The sound comes from nowhere and everywhere at once, echoing in the silence and vanishing when one attempts to locate its source. Whispers follow the travelers, soft and unintelligible, rising with the wind and fading just as quickly. Some who have followed the figure describe a strange feeling of being observed, as if unseen eyes track every movement. The drifter does not approach, does not speak, yet his presence is commanding, almost magnetic. Hikers and desert travelers feel compelled to pause, to watch, even though nothing material moves toward them. The figure sometimes appears standing near desert ruins, leaning against weathered posts or looking out over a ridge. The wind carries the faint scent of leather, tobacco, and dust. Those who move closer find the space empty, the footprints in the sand leading nowhere. It is as if the drifter exists slightly out of phase with the world, glimpsed only in fleeting moments. Legends suggest he is the spirit of a cowboy who wandered these lands long ago, traveling from settlement to settlement, never finding rest. His life was solitary and harsh, shaped by the unforgiving desert. And perhaps his spirit has carried that solitude into the afterlife. The whispers that follow travelers are said to be fragments of his unspoken words. Echoes of a life lived in isolation and hardship. The drifter is sometimes seen at twilight, the low sun casting his shadow long and thin across the dunes. Travelers report that even when they try to follow him, the figure seems to drift away, always just out of reach, melting into the desert haze. Nights in the Socorro Desert are cold and quiet, yet the presence of the lone drifter breaks that stillness. He is never threatening, but his appearance carries an unshakable sense of melancholy. The desert itself seems to bend around him, the wind shifting, the sand rearranging, as if the world acknowledges his passage. Some witnesses speak of seeing the drifter vanish suddenly. One moment he stands near a ridge or a trail, the next, he is gone. Only the soft echo of spurs or the faint rustle of his coat remains. Those who linger sometimes feel a cold gust of wind brushing past, as if the desert itself exhales in acknowledgement of his departure. Travelers who experience the drifter often leave with a mix of awe and unease. The figure seems to be a guardian of the desert, a reminder that the land holds memory. That every trail and dune carries the imprint of those who came before. Some describe feeling a pull to return to the desert, drawn by a need to see the figure again or to understand the whispers that follow them even after they leave. The drifter does not interact, does not speak. He is a haunting image of solitude and endurance, a ghostly cowboy who has never truly left. Even during the brightest day, some report catching glimpses of the drifter. A shadow in the corner of the eye, a dark figure outlined against the sand, or a glint of spurs in the sun. When looked at directly, he disappears, leaving only the whispering wind and shifting sand to suggest he was ever there. The Socorro Desert holds its secrets well. Travelers may feel the silence pressing down, the emptiness stretching endlessly. Yet in that vastness, the lone drifter walks. His steps are soft, measured, and deliberate, echoing faintly in the memory long after the observer has left the dunes. He is a figure out of time, a phantom of the past, and a reminder that some spirits remain bound to the landscapes they once knew intimately. Those who spend a night in the desert often report an uneasy calm, a heightened awareness of the space around them. The drifter's presence is never harmful, but it is undeniable. The whispers, the faint echoes of spurs, the fleeting figure on the horizon, they leave an imprint on the mind, a story carried forward in silence, a legend written in the shifting sands of the Socorro Desert. The lone drifter continues his solitary journey night after night. His figure drifts along trails, over dunes, past abandoned structures and through canyons, never pausing, never turning back. Travelers passing through the desert may glimpse him, may hear his spurs, may feel the weight of his silent gaze. And though he is never tangible, his presence is woven into the desert, a ghostly cowboy forever wandering, forever part of the land he once knew and now quietly haunts. In the Socorro Desert, the story of the lone drifter persists. He moves through time and space, seen by some, felt by others, and remembered by all who sense the subtle whispers and phantom steps in the stillness of the night. His spirit is a guardian of memory, a shadow in the sand, a cowboy whose journey never truly ends, leaving only echoes and whispers for those who dare to walk the desert trails after dark. Cibola National Forest stretches across the high deserts and mountains of New Mexico, a vast wilderness of pia plus or minus on trees, rugged canyons, and quiet valleys. By day, the forest is alive with hikers, campers, and wildlife, the sound of wind through the trees and birdsong filling the air. Trails wind along ridges and through meadows, leading to secluded campsites where travelers can set up tents and enjoy the solitude of nature. Yet when night falls, the forest transforms, revealing a presence that is unseen by most, yet unmistakably there for those who venture into the shadows. Visitors who explore Cibola National Forest after dark often report encounters with abandoned campsites that seem alive. Campfires ignite themselves without fuel, flames flickering and dancing as though tended by invisible hands. Chairs move across the ground, shifting subtly as if occupied by unseen bodies. The gentle rustle of fabric and the faint creak of wood combine to create a scene that is both familiar and otherworldly, a campsite that seems populated yet completely empty. Those who witness these phenomena describe a mixture of awe and unease, as if the forest itself is alive with memory. Alongside the visual activity, faint laughter drifts through the air. It is high-pitched and playful, echoing between trees and over rocky slopes, yet it carries a haunting quality that unsettles visitors. The laughter seems to originate from the campgrounds themselves, as if ghostly families are enjoying an eternal evening, playing among tents and under starlit skies. Hikers often pause, straining to hear, but the source remains unseen, leaving only the sensation of life and energy lingering in the darkened forest. One observer recounted visiting a secluded campsite late in the evening. The fire pit was cold and the chairs empty. As they approached, flames suddenly flickered to life, casting warm light across the surrounding rocks and trees. A chair shifted slightly as if someone had just stood. And faint laughter carried through the air, circling the campsite. The observer froze, heart pounding, as a sense of presence filled the space. Moments later, the flames dimmed, the chair returned to its original position, and the forest fell silent again. The experience left a profound impression, a reminder that the forest preserves more than natural beauty. It holds echoes of lives long past. The landscape of Cibola National Forest enhances these experiences. The uneven terrain, narrow valleys, and thick clusters of trees create natural acoustics where sounds carry far and seem to emerge from unexpected directions. Shadows stretch and shift in the moonlight, making ordinary objects appear animated. The interplay of light and darkness, coupled with the isolation of the campsites, creates an environment where the line between imagination and reality blurs, heightening the sense of unseen presence and subtle activity. Local legends suggest that these spectral families may be the remnants of campers who perished or lost their way, their spirits lingering in the forest to recreate moments of joy and togetherness. Others believe that the phenomena are expressions of residual energy, echoes of laughter and activity preserved in the land itself. Witnesses consistently report similar experiences, fires lighting on their own, chairs moving, and laughter carrying through the trees. The persistence of these accounts lends credibility to the idea that the forest maintains a living memory of those who once enjoyed its secluded spaces. Experiencing the phantom campers is both eerie and enchanting. The gentle movement of objects, the flickering light of a fire, and the faint sound of laughter. The texture of bark on nearby trees, the alignment of rocks around a campsite, the subtle patterns of wind through the branches. Each sound, each movement, each flicker of light contributes to the sensation that the forest itself is participating in the scene. A silent observer and orchestrator of spectral activity. Even when no fires ignite and no laughter is heard, the forest retains a charged atmosphere. Guests report a lingering feeling of being watched, a quiet awareness of unseen figures nearby. The energy of the forest feels alive, infused with memory and presence. Visitors leave with a lasting impression that Cibola National Forest is more than wilderness. It is a space where history, memory, and spirit converge. Where past moments of joy and companionship echo softly for those willing to listen and observe. As night deepens over the mountains and valleys, the campsites of Cibola National Forest remain shrouded in mystery. Flames may flicker to life in empty fire pits. Chairs may shift as if occupied. And faint laughter may drift through the trees. Playful and haunting. The forest endures as a place where the living encounter echoes of the past. Where phantom campers continue their timeless evenings under the stars. And where visitors are reminded that some presences persist beyond sight, guiding, watching, and leaving their mark in subtle, unforgettable ways. Chaco Canyon stretches across the high desert of New Mexico, a landscape carved by wind and time, where the ruins of an ancient civilization stand as silent witnesses to a forgotten era. By day, the sun illuminates stone walls and ceremonial kivas, revealing the intricate architecture of a people who thrived here centuries ago. By night, the canyon transforms, and visitors tell of experiences that suggest the past has not entirely left this place. Travelers and researchers alike have reported hearing faint chanting carried on the wind. The sounds are ethereal, a sequence of tones that rises and falls as if echoing. through time itself. The chanting often seems to come from within the ruins, from spaces that have been uninhabited for centuries. Some describe it as a call to ceremony, a ritual frozen in memory, yet alive in the present. The voices are soft but persistent, weaving through the canyon walls and leaving a sense of awe and reverence. Amidst the stone structures, figures sometimes appear, dressed in traditional attire reminiscent of the ancient Shikoans. They move silently across the plazas and ceremonial chambers, their steps making no sound upon the stone floors. Witnesses speak of the figures as being tangible yet elusive, visible for a moment before dissolving into the shadows. These spectral presences are often observed near kivas, circular subterranean rooms once used for gatherings, prayer, and ceremonies. The figures seem connected to the space, drawn to the structures as if still performing rituals long abandoned. The architecture of Chaco Canyon itself contributes to the mysterious atmosphere. Doorways and corridors create pockets where light and darkness meet, and where figures appear and disappear almost at will. Some visitors report glimpsing shadows moving along the tops of walls, or catching the reflection of a figure in a polished stone or water basin. The play of light and shadow, combined with the canyon's stillness, creates an environment where the imagination and reality blend seamlessly. Many who have experienced these phenomena describe a sense of presence rather than fear. The figures are not threatening, they carry the weight of history and culture, offering a fleeting glimpse into lives that shaped this landscape. Observers often feel watched, a gentle awareness that they are intruding on a sacred space. Footsteps may echo, though no one walks beside them. And cold drafts occasionally ripple through the stone structures, reinforcing the impression that something beyond the physical world resides here. The chanting itself sometimes reacts to the presence of visitors. Some describe the volume or pitch changing as they move through the canyon, rising in intensity when approached and fading when left alone. The sounds seem intentional, as if guiding attention toward particular structures or ceremonial areas. Kivas, great houses, and plazas become stages for these spectral events, each space echoing with the lives and traditions of the people who built them. Legend suggests that these manifestations are ancestral spirits, bound to the canyon by devotion and history. Chaco Canyon was a hub of trade, culture, and ritual. And it is possible that echoes of this vibrancy remain embedded in the stone. Visitors have speculated that the figures they see are not simply hallucinations but remnants of ceremonial life, walking the same paths that were tread by their predecessors, performing acts that have endured beyond death. Encounters vary widely. Some report only hearing chanting or the movement of unseen figures, while others describe seeing multiple figures moving together in formation, as if reenacting ancient ceremonies. Others describe seeing multiple figures moving together in formation, as if reenacting ancient ceremonies. The experience is often accompanied by a profound sense of connection, as though the canyon itself has opened a window to the past. As though the canyon itself has opened a window to the past. Those who witness these phenomena frequently leave with a renewed respect for the culture that once thrived here and a sense of having brushed against something eternal. Even in the absence of figures or sound, the canyon retains a palpable energy. The silence is heavy, charged with centuries of human activity. Shadows seem to stretch farther than they should. And nightfall brings an intensity to the darkness that is difficult to describe. The air carries a weight, a mixture of wind, stone, and memory, that heightens perception and prepares the senses for the subtle presence of the unseen. Chaco Canyon is a place where time is layered, where the past is not confined to history books but persists in the stones and shadows. Every structure, from towering walls to the smallest kiva, holds the memory of ceremonies, gatherings, and daily life. Visitors who traverse the canyon at night find themselves part of this continuum, observers of echoes that move with a purpose and presence all their own. Those who have experienced the ancient spirits speak of them with reverence, describing encounters as enlightening rather than frightening. The figures appear, interact with the environment, and vanish, leaving only the impression of their existence. Footsteps echo without source, chanting fills the air and fades, and shadows flicker in ways that defy explanation. Each event reinforces the idea that Chaco Canyon is not merely a relic of the past but a living monument to a civilization that endures in spirit. As night recedes and the first light of dawn touches the canyon walls, the figures withdraw, the chanting fades, and silence returns. Yet the memory lingers, etched in the minds of those who have witnessed it. The canyon is a bridge between worlds. A place where ancient spirits walk once more, allowing visitors a glimpse into a realm where history lives and breathes in the present. The Gila National Forest stretches across mountains, canyons, and dense desert woodlands, a vast wilderness where the wind whispers through junipers and the sun casts long shadows over rugged terrain. By day, the forest seems alive with birds and the rustle of small animals. But as twilight falls and the desert cools, a different kind of presence emerges. Hikers who traverse these remote paths at dusk and into the night report an unsettling phenomenon, the shadow walker. It begins with movement at the edge of vision, shapes that shift silently among the trees. At first, the shadows seem indistinct, like swaying branches. But those who have witnessed them insist they are figures, humanoid yet elongated, gliding effortlessly through undergrowth and rock. The figures move without sound, leaving no trace. Yet the feeling of being followed grows increasingly heavy. Some hikers have described the sensation as a weight pressing gently on their shoulders or a chill brushing along their arms. Whispers often accompany these apparitions, low and incomprehensible, like fragments of an ancient language carried on the desert wind. The voice seems to come from every direction, yet no one is visible. When they turn, there is nothing, only the empty forest, the rustle of leaves, and the faint crunch of distant footsteps that disappear when investigated. The Gila National Forest has long been home to stories and legends passed down through generations. Local inhabitants speak of spirits who dwell among the mountains and canyons, guardians of the forest and witnesses to all who enter. The Shadow Walker is said to be one such spirit, neither cruel nor kind, simply a sentinel, a remnant of the land's deep memory. Its form is dark and fleeting, a silhouette against rock and foliage that vanishes when approached too closely. Those who have encountered the Shadow Walker describe an overwhelming sense of awareness. As if the figure sees not just the body, but the intent and purpose of the traveler. The presence can follow for hours, weaving silently through narrow canyons and open glades alike. Some hikers report feeling cold touches along their arms, fleeting but unmistakable. A warning or acknowledgement from an entity that cannot be seen directly. The forest itself seems to respond to the Shadow Walker's passage. Winds rise suddenly, carrying the scent of sage and damp earth. Shadows stretch unnaturally, and the silence between distant bird calls grows thick. Observers describe the eyes adjusting to darkness, yet the shapes remain elusive, always on the periphery. There is no aggression, only observation, a reminder that the desert forest is older than any path carved by man. Encounters are most often reported in remote areas, far from roads and campsites. The further one ventures into the forest, the more pronounced the presence becomes. Hikers have followed what they thought were deer or rocks only to realize that the movements do not align with natural forms. Branches part in ways that suggest a figure passing, and shadows stretch unnaturally along ridges, then vanish when directly viewed. The Shadow Walker moves with a purpose known only to itself, silent and patient. Some speak of the figure as a guide, warning travelers of dangers ahead, though these interpretations vary. Others describe a haunting unease, a reminder that the wilderness contains more than what meets the eye. The whispers are said to convey messages, though none who have heard them understand their meaning. Words from a language lost to time, carried on the wind, hint at stories and memories embedded in the forest itself. Hikers report that the shadow walker never attacks. It does not obstruct the trail or harm those who see it. Yet its presence is undeniable, leaving an impression long after it has vanished. Cold spots linger in its wake, and the sense of being observed persists, even when the forest appears calm. Some say that the figures are the spirits of those who perished in these woods, tied eternally to the rugged landscape. Others believe it is an ancient guardian, ensuring that the land and its mysteries remain respected and untraveled recklessly. The phenomenon is not limited to a single trail or valley. Across the Gila National Forest, reports of the shadow walker appear in the high canyons, along dry washes, and beneath the cover of pine and juniper. No one has been able to approach it fully, and no footprints are ever found. The forest absorbs the figure, and the encounter ends as suddenly as it begins, leaving hikers with a mix of awe, fear, and wonder. Travelers who spend the night in the forest often awaken to faint movements and whispers, though when they rise, they see only the empty trail and the moonlight casting shadows on trees and rocks. Some report seeing faint silhouettes across ridges, vanishing when the eye focuses directly on them. The feeling of unseen eyes continues, a constant, subtle reminder that the forest is alive in ways not seen by day. The Gila National Forest is a place where history and mystery intertwine. The land has witnessed countless generations, each leaving traces in the soil, the rocks, and the air. The land has witnessed countless generations, each leaving traces in the soil, the rocks, and the air. Its presence reinforces the sense that the forest is not merely a collection of trees and canyons, but a living entity, full of memory and unseen guardians. Its presence reinforces the sense that the forest is not merely a collection of trees and canyons, but a living entity, full of memory and unseen guardians. Those who encounter the shadow walker leave with stories they cannot easily explain. Some describe the figure as protective, while others speak of an eerie unease. Every account is consistent in the presence of a dark, shadowy form, whispers that carry on the wind, and the sensation of being watched. It is a reminder that the wilderness holds secrets older than any map, and that some aspects of the forest are meant to remain beyond understanding. By dawn, the forest appears tranquil once again. Shadows retreat, the whispers fade. And the cool desert air seems normal. Yet the memory of the shadow walker lingers. Hikers recall the cold touches, the rustle of unseen movement, and the feeling of eyes upon them long after the trail has ended. The Gila National Forest keeps its secrets well. And the shadow walker continues its silent journey, an eternal presence. An eternal presence moving unseen, guarding, observing, and reminding all who enter that the forest is alive with more than meets the eye. The Carlsbad Caverns stretch deep beneath the New Mexico desert, a labyrinth of stone, shadow, and silence. Above ground, the wind whispers across the barren landscape, but below, the darkness is absolute, broken only by the beams of flashlights and the faint glimmer of minerals in the cavern walls. Visitors who venture into these ancient chambers often speak of an unsettling presence. Footsteps echo in places where no one stands, reverberating through the tunnels and chambers in patterns that seem deliberate. The sound is heavy, careful, and impossibly rhythmic, as if someone, or something, walks alongside you yet remains unseen. In certain chambers, faint voices can be heard, fragmented and indistinct, rising and falling with the air currents. Whispers swirl around the stalagmites and stalactites, bouncing off rock walls, forming phrases that cannot quite be understood. Travelers report a chilling sensation of being watched, of unseen eyes tracking their every movement as they navigate the narrow passages. Some explorers have described flickering lights in the distance, far deeper than any torch could reach. They appear momentarily, shimmering along the cavern floor or glinting off mineral formations, then vanish before approached. The lights seem to respond to movement, pulsing when footsteps come near, retreating when the observer gets too close. The echoes are not random. Guides recount stories of visitors hearing the distinct sound of a hand brushing along the stone walls. Of doors opening and closing where no constructed passage exists. The cavern shifts in its own way, corridors appearing broader or narrower. Ceilings seeming to breathe with the movements of those below. In the big room, the largest chamber in the cavern system, these phenomena are most pronounced. Footsteps fall in tandem with Oni's own, yet when turning, no figure is found. Whispers seem to circle in the air, echoing off the immense walls in ways that defy logic, returning phrases half-formed, sentences unfinished, yet unmistakably deliberate. Many believe the spirits are those of the early explorers. Miners, and indigenous people who knew these passages before modern trails and lighting were installed. Their energy lingers, embedded in the stone and air, rising through the centuries in subtle ways. Guiding, observing, and sometimes warning those who tread these paths. Some visitors feel sudden chills as they enter certain chambers. The temperature drops inexplicably, and the breath of the unseen seems to brush across the neck and arms. A soft humming, almost melodic, can sometimes be heard, as if a chorus of voices, human yet unearthly, rehearses within the stone. Others report objects shifting slightly, a backpack tilting, a camera tripod moving a few inches, a bottle rolling across the floor as though nudged by invisible hands. Nothing is ever violent, nothing overtly threatening, yet the persistence of movement convinces travelers that the space is alive in a way the eyes cannot fully capture. At the deepest reaches of the caverns, in areas far beyond the regular tour paths, the phenomena intensify. Explorers with proper experience sometimes hear distant footsteps moving with intent, followed by faint, sorrowful whispers that seem to convey longing, regret, or an invitation to follow deeper into the darkness. The echo carries differently in these remote spaces, bouncing in ways that suggest someone is always just beyond the line of sight. Some say that the ghosts of Carlsbad caverns are tied to the earth itself. The limestone, carved over millions of years, holds memory. Every drip of water, every subtle movement of stone, seems attuned to the spirits that linger. Shadows twist along walls, elongated and distorted, reflecting movements that may not belong to any living being. When the lights of the surface disappear at night, those exploring even guided trails sometimes report a heavier sense of isolation. The echoes grow louder, closer. And footsteps that were faint at first become deliberate and synchronized. Whispers turn to soft murmurs, almost conversational. As though unseen inhabitants of the cavern are attempting to communicate. To draw the living deeper into the labyrinth. Even seasoned guides admit to hearing sounds they cannot explain. They recount times when a group pauses, hearing a cascade of footsteps descending from a side chamber where no access exists. Or a series of soft knocks resonating from a solid stone wall. The echoes appear almost intelligent, responding to movement, as if the caverns themselves are conscious, inhabited by lingering spirits. The experiences leave a lasting impression. Those who walk the chambers speak of a presence that is constant yet elusive. Ever moving just beyond perception. Some return to Carlsbad caverns repeatedly, drawn by the phenomena. Seeking glimpses of lights that flicker in impossible places. Or the subtle brushing of air that seems to whisper warnings or guidance. Visitors often leave with a sense of awe and humility. And aware that beneath the desert surface lies a living memory. The echoes, footsteps, and whispers are more than auditory phenomena. They are a record of lives once lived. Of footsteps that walked before modern humans. Preserved in the stone and carried forward by the spirits that linger still. Carlsbad Caverns is not simply a cave system. It is a repository of echoes. A cathedral of stone. Where the past communicates in the only language it can. Sound, shadow, and subtle presence. Creating an atmosphere that is both haunting and magnificent. Those who explore the depths report a shared understanding. The caverns are alive, watched by the echoes of those who came before. A silent chorus that teaches respect for the space and its history. Lights, whispers, and shadows form a symphony of the unseen. A ghostly reminder that Carlsbad Caverns holds more than rock, it holds memory, presence, and the echoing ghosts of the past. In the end, the experience of Carlsbad Caverns is not one of fear, but of reverence. The footsteps, flickering lights, and whispers create a bridge across time, connecting modern explorers to those who walked before. Every echo reminds the living of the unseen lives that persist. A haunting yet beautiful symphony of memory preserved in stone, echoing endlessly through the chambers. Waiting for the next visitor to step into the darkness and listen. The Pecos River winds through the high deserts and canyons of New Mexico, its waters glimmering in the daylight and reflecting the vast sky above. By day, the river is a haven for anglers, hikers, and explorers, a place where the landscape seems untouched and time slows. The gentle current, the rustle of reeds, and the occasional splash of a fish create a serene environment, one that draws visitors to its banks again and again. Yet as night falls, the river takes on a different character. A place where the past seems to move among the present. And where a ghostly presence quietly emerges. Visitors who linger along the Pecos River after dusk often report seeing a figure on the banks, a solitary fisherman casting an invisible line into the calm water. The figure is faint, almost transparent, yet unmistakably human in form. Standing with measured patience, the figure moves through the motions of fishing, line and rod moving as though engaged in a routine that has persisted for decades or even centuries. Observers describe a sense of quiet reverence and awe, the figure blending seamlessly with the shadows of the riverbank while maintaining a presence that is impossible to ignore. The figure often appears under the light of the moon, the silver glow reflecting off the water and illuminating the ghostly silhouette. As visitors watch, the figure sometimes seems to vanish suddenly, leaving only ripples upon the calm surface of the river. These disturbances are subtle yet undeniable, as if the water itself remembers the motions of the unseen fisherman. Witnesses often report a mix of fascination and unease, the ripples serving as proof that the figure was present, yet confirming that nothing visible remains. One observer recounted an evening along the riverbank, walking quietly as the sun dipped below the horizon. The water reflected the deepening twilight, and the only sound was the gentle lapping of the river against the shore. A faint silhouette appeared at a bend in the river, standing perfectly still as though in meditation. The figure raised an invisible line, casting it into the river with practiced grace. Moments later, the figure faded under the moonlight, yet a series of concentric ripples radiated across the water, evidence of presence that was at once ephemeral and real. The observer felt a shiver, a sense of connection to a presence both familiar and otherworldly. The landscape of the Pecos River enhances these experiences. Cliffs and canyon walls create pockets of shadow where the figure may appear, disappear, or move silently along the banks. The gentle current amplifies the effect, carrying sound in unexpected ways and reflecting light that casts long, shifting shadows. Vegetation along the river bends adds to the sense of secrecy, partially obscuring the figure while emphasizing its motion when glimpsed. These elements combine to make the riverbank a space where the ordinary becomes extraordinary, and where the senses are heightened by subtle, haunting phenomena. Local legends suggest that the phantom fisherman may be a spirit from an earlier era, a solitary figure whose devotion to the river and the practice of fishing lingered beyond death. A spirit from an earlier era, a solitary figure whose devotion to the river and the practice of fishing lingered beyond death. Solitary figure whose devotion to the river and the practice of fishing lingered beyond death. Whose devotion to the river and the practice of fishing lingered beyond death. And the practice of fishing lingered beyond death. Lingered beyond death. Some believe the presence is a guardian of the river, silently observing and maintaining a connection to the natural world. Is a guardian of the river, silently observing and maintaining a connection to the natural world. Silently observing and maintaining a connection to the natural world. A connection to the natural world. Others suggest that it is a residual memory, the echo of countless evenings spent fishing, replaying for those who are attentive and present. Is a residual memory, the echo of countless evenings spent fishing, replaying for those who are attentive and present. The echo of countless evenings spent fishing, replaying for those who are attentive and present. Spent fishing, replaying for those who are attentive and present. Who are attentive and present. Visitors consistently report similar experiences of figures appearing, lines being cast, and ripples spreading across the water, indicating a persistent phenomenon that has been observed over generations. A figures appearing, lines being cast, and ripples spreading across the water, indicating a persistent phenomenon that has been observed over generations. And ripples spreading across the water, indicating a persistent phenomenon that has been observed over generations. Indicating a persistent phenomenon that has been observed over generations. That has been observed over generations. Generations. Encountering the phantom fisherman is an experience that blends serenity and unease. The subtle movements, the faint silhouette, and the ripples on the water engage the senses fully, heightening perception of the surrounding environment. Observers note the texture of the riverbank, the sound of the current, and the interplay of moonlight on the water. Each detail contributes to the sensation that the river itself is alive with memory and presence, that the past continues to move in silent harmony with the present. Even in moments when the figure is absent, the river retains a charged atmosphere. Visitors often report lingering impressions, a sense of being watched, or an awareness of movement just beyond sight. The phantom fisherman becomes more than an apparition, it is a reminder that history, memory, and human connection can exist invisibly, embedded in the landscape, waiting for those who are sensitive to notice. The Pecos River becomes a place where time is layered, where past and present coexist, and where the ordinary act of observing the water is imbued with wonder and reverence. As night deepens over the Pecos, the river reflects the moon and stars in a tranquil, endless silver. A figure may appear along the banks, casting an invisible line, moving with patient grace, and vanishing into the night. A figure may appear along the banks, casting an invisible line, moving with patient grace, and vanishing into the night. Ripples spread across the water, evidence of presence, a quiet acknowledgement of time, devotion, and memory. Ripples spread across the water, evidence of presence, a quiet acknowledgement of time, devotion, and memory. Ripples spread across the water, evidence of presence, a quiet acknowledgement of time, devotion, and memory. Ripples spread across the water, evidence of presence, a quiet acknowledgement of time, devotion, and memory. Ripples spread across the water, evidence of presence, a quiet acknowledgement of time, devotion, and memory. The river endures as a space where the living encounter the echoes of those who came before. Where the phantom fisherman continues his eternal vigil. And where visitors are reminded that the natural world carries more than beauty. It carries the lingering spirit of life lived in harmony with the water. Quietly moving, watching, and casting long after darkness has settled. And so, our journey through New Mexico's haunted desert places comes to an end. Though perhaps some shadows and whispers followed you across the dunes. 20 locations where isolation meets the supernatural, where the past lingers beneath the sun-scorched land, and where the dead remain among the living. If you ever wander into these deserts at night, remember. The air may carry voices. The dunes may conceal figures. And every step could be watched. Thank you for venturing with me tonight. May your path stay clear, your tent secure, and your eyes see only what is meant to be seen. Before you go, tell me in the comments. Which haunted desert place gave you the chills? And would you dare spend a night alone there? Sleep carefully, dear listener. And beware the shadows across the sands.